touching on the top prop bets in the NBA today. All right, so I just want to start off this video by saying, we don't have that many great bets just yet because the board isn't fully populated. And the ones that it is populated with, I would say are pretty fair, even push type bets. So with that, I might be coming out with an afternoon video if we get some more like stellar bets. Now I'll go through the process here for you guys this morning because one, it's fun, but just if you find some bets that you like, obviously you can make them. If you don't, just wait for potentially the afternoon video. But we're going to go ahead and get started with this Celtics versus Orlando game. So starting off with this game, we can see it does have the potential to be a blowout. And you can see a lot of these games do have the potential to be a blowout, which is partially what I'm worried about on this slate thus far. So if we look at the Celtics, we can see they are going to be without Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon. So one of the props I was really hoping that we would get would be Derek White, because Derek White, with those two off the court, is going to step up into a bigger role. He averages 32 fantasy points per 36, and that'd be a prop that I would want to bet. If we get it under and maybe like 28 or so, that'd be a bet that I would like a decent amount. But looking at it, he gets 13.8 points per 36, 3.7 and 6.7 assists per 36 with those two off the court. So once we get the props for Derek White, that could be a nice spot for him. Okay, and I think we'll get it. But looking at it, I feel like given the fact that this game could blow out, I feel like Tatum's over points could be a little bit too high because we don't know for sure if he's going to get that final rotation. Banchero, I don't really like. Jaylen Brown, I don't really like as well. Wagner, I would assume, is kind of going to get shut down by Boston a little bit as well if the game blows out. If he doesn't get his final rotation, don't expect him to get the over. But if we were to look at like DK Sportsbook, they're kind of saying that this is a stay away as well. And they are saying the best bet would be Banchero over 17.5 point because he's at minus 140. So that is very much where I'm struggling. Okay, DK Sportsbook is saying, hey, this is a pretty good bet that you can make, over a 55% chance that it hits. I'm just worried about it because this game has the potential to be a blowout and the fact that this is a tough matchup, probably the worst matchup on the slate. And I know he averages about 20.7 points on the season, but he has been someone that hasn't really been smashing lately. I mean, sure, in some good matchups, he's been able to get the over, like Denver you would chase, Utah you would chase, Portland, Sacramento, even the Warriors, you would chase those matchups. This is going to be a difficult matchup. And so I kind of find it interesting that in a game in which is projected to be a blowout, DK Sportsbook likes that number. And so that's for you guys to decide. That's where I'm saying I'm struggling with today's props thus far, because none of them feel like gung-ho. I'm not gung-ho about any of them. Now, if I were to attack this game, I somewhat feel like I would want to attack it maybe with the first half bets or with some rebounds. So looking at both Tatum and Jaylen Brown for the rebounds, we can see Tatum has been over this 8.5 rebounds prop projection 5 straight games. He's actually averaging way over that, okay? And if we look at his season average, he's right at 8.5, okay? So right at that prop number. But if we look at his numbers with Marcus Smart and Malcolm Brogdon off the court, his rebounds actually go up 1.9 per 36 to an average of about 10.7. And we can see, he has been someone when the games have been close or not even that much, Charlotte was a blowout. The Pelicans was pretty much a blowout. He has still been able to get those minutes, okay? Another good example would be kind of Dallas. Still got the minutes, still got the over. So to me, this seems like a pretty good bet. But I also want to point out, DK Sportsbook doesn't exactly love this one, okay? Minus 120, sure, he's favored to get the over slightly, but they're not loving it. And that could be because this game has the potential to be a blowout. Okay, so that could be a worry. And then on the flip side, they are saying Jaylen Brown has a pretty good chance to get over 6.5 rebounds, but we'll see they put him at 7, which is still not a bad number because with Malcolm Brogdon and Marcus Smart off the court, he averages 9.1 rebounds per 36, which is about 2 more. Okay, so we are getting a nice little buffer there. And so with it being, minus 140, we are probably getting this at minus 125, still slightly favored, but still not much. And that's just adjusting for the half a rebound there. And guys, I just saw like White pop in there, so I'm hoping by the end of this video of me recording this, I can give you guys some better props. Fingers crossed that PrizePicks updates while I'm recording this. Okay, so let's say we are potentially worried about this game being a blowout. And like I kind of touched on, I don't really think this is going to be the route to go because the Celtics typically do get their run regardless if it's a blowout. Still probably going to get at least 32, 33 minutes, and that should be enough for them to get the over. But if you are worried about their final rotation, maybe you could attack it with the first half props. And I don't like to do this because you are reducing the sample size down. Typically speaking, this is just half of what their total props are on the game. And so because of that, you're kind of just reducing the sample size. If they have a poor first half, the chances are they're going to have a good second half. So I don't like doing it most of the time. The only time I will do it is for a team that's favored in a blowout and you think it's a smash spot, which I don't really think this is. This goes back to the point where it does feel like we're kind of forcing in some bet, but this would be an okay one. Jaylen Brown, I probably wouldn't feel the need to go with, but I do think Markelle Fultz at 10.5 is very interesting because we do know that Fultz is going to start. And so with that, don't really have to worry about the blowout. The biggest problem with this bet though would be Cole Anthony's back, Jalen Suggs is back. So we're not getting the increase in minutes for the full games for sure with those players back. Like he hasn't gotten over 30 minutes in 4 straight games because of that. Prior he was kind of seeing 31, 33, he was seeing over 30 minutes occasionally with those players off the court. We're just not seeing that anymore. So tough to fully trust him, but at the same time, that does seem like a very low number for Fultz. So a prop bet that I don't mind. And now getting into the next game, we're going to have the Bucks versus the Pistons, which is also a game that is projected to be a blowout. The Bucks are favored by 11 points. But the part that makes the Bucks difficult, and I think this is part of the reason why we don't have props just out for it besides Giannis, is the fact that the Bucks are projected to be kind of fully healthy. Now, Chris Middleton's probably not going to get a full allotment of minutes. He has been playing with their G League team though, so maybe he does. Had been getting around 30 minutes. I would say probably going to get like 25 or so minutes. With that though, that makes everyone else kind of poor bets, it seems like. Now, maybe you could still go with Giannis, and I don't mind that. But Pat Connaughton's back. Joe Ingles is back. Grayson Allen's good to go. They got Carter. Like, they are fully healthy. And so with that, I feel like there's going to be some sort of chemistry things that are, they're trying to make work. And so although the game might be a blowout, it's going to be tougher to predict which players are going to go off. And I feel like that's why we're still getting that's why we're not getting any of the props that we're getting. Then if we look at Detroit, they are going to be without Stewart and Bagley. They're still trying to figure out who to properly bump up, and Killian Hayes is currently questionable as well. So those could be spots that we're attacking. But I do want to point out Giannis. It's very interesting here, guys. So if we look at Giannis in games that are blowouts, it's very fascinating to me because against Charlotte, 9 points. But you would say because Giannis was struggling, that was the reason for the blowout. And if we keep going back, we could kind of see that. Like Boston, they got blown out under 28.5 points. Brooklyn, under, kind of a blowout, not really, but 26 points. Now the Pelicans, a game that they won by 9, not exactly a blowout, but 42 points. Memphis, a team that blew them out, 19 points. Golden State, a team that they blew out, 30 points. So this is kind of my long way of saying, if we believe this number of minus 11, then Giannis, in theory, should be able to get this over. We do worry about the final rotation, and we do worry about the chemistry issues with all the starters being back, or all the players pretty much being back and healthy. That could throw a wrench into this. And so because the game has the potential to be a blowout, I actually don't mind Giannis over the first half points. At the same time, he has really struggled in the first half, guys, lately. Really struggled, but I kind of expect him to go off against Detroit. And this could honestly be a situation in which you double down if he does struggle in the first half, because that would mean most likely, that the game is closer than expected, okay? So if he does struggle in the first half, you could potentially double down on him. The game should be closer, so then you could probably do another Bucks player prop, maybe Drew Holiday if it pops up. You could potentially throw that in there as well if Giannis doesn't get there. So now if we look at the next game, this is probably going to be the most intriguing game. We got the Atlanta Hawks versus the Chicago Bulls. It's a very high-scoring game, 239.5. This went up a point since this morning. And we actually have a lot of games that are pretty high scoring, just FYI. A close scoring game, so we don't really have to worry about the blowout. So in theory, this should be one that we would want to attack a little bit more. I would kind of want to attack it more with fantasy points. We're not getting that just yet. That's one that they throw at us at the end of the day. And typically speaking, guys, I do like the fantasy points props as well. So if you feel like this morning, if you feel like you would be forcing in a bet, no need to make that. Let's just wait until the fantasy points come out. And if we have some props that we like, we can adjust and use those ones instead. So the thing with this is these two teams have met twice prior. If we look at DeJounte Murray, he was active for one of them, and that game was, still pretty high scoring, but not as high scoring as expected. He didn't really go off. And if we were to pull up that second game with Murray off the court, we did see Trae Young really go off in that game. Kind of. 14 assists, 19 points, shot the ball a ton. It's just it was a high assist margin, and the game was higher scoring then as well. And actually, in the other game with Murray back, we saw Trae Young really go off in that game for 34 points. But with that, it kind of feels like Trae Young should be a stay away. We don't know exactly what we're going to get. He has been right around this prop. The last 5 games, it kind of just feels like a stay away there with Trae Young. We could potentially stack this game, hope that it is that very high over and under. Thus, these players should be able to get their overs. If you want to do that, maybe a 3-leg parlay and 3-leg stack, you could do that. And maybe the bet would be someone like DeMar over 26.5 points. Now he has been struggling lately, and that's kind of come with Vooch and also Zach LaVine kind of really going off. But if we look at what DeMar did against the Hawks the last 2 times, 28 points and 34 points. So that would suggest that he is a little bit lower projected than he should be. At the same time, that is because Zach LaVine has really been going off, and we can kind of just see by the indication of the price points. Like DraftKings is saying Zach LaVine has been the better player lately, thus he's going to be higher priced. Now, if we look at Zach LaVine against the Hawks, 22 and 21 points. Not that good. So you could potentially do the under for Zach LaVine there. I don't love that because he's been so hot, and that's partially goes back to the reason of why I would potentially want to fade this. Vooch was over this point total in the first game and not in the second game. So this really does feel like a game that you could stack, but as we can see, there's not really any bets that we should be really gearing up to get to. The one bet that the DK Sportsbook kind of likes would be Patrick Williams over 10.5 points at -130. I don't love that. So that'd be a wait and see approach there. And then looking at Utah versus Charlotte, this is going to be a high scoring game as well. So they had this projected to be a 239 over and under. The Jazz are favored to win by 8 points, so we do have that worry of this game being a blowout. And if we look at it, we are waiting on news on LaMelo Ball being active or not, and I think that's partially why we're not getting all the props that we need. Now, I do like marketing to get the over here. It does seem like kind of with like Giannis, where in games that they have blown teams out, he is basically the reason why. 34 points against the Clippers, that was a blowout. Against Houston, they blew him out as well. 49 points. Detroit, that was a blowout. 38 points. So that would really be the bet here, is the game blowing out. And once again, I just don't love that bet too much. So with that, let's just go ahead and get into some other bets. And guys, we didn't get that many good NHL bets as well, which is unfortunate. I think it's just Monday. It's kind of the natural reset day. And personally speaking, with Taco Tuesday coming up tomorrow, we don't need to force this stuff if we're not getting the proper bets we need. So looking at right now, really the best NHL odds we're going to get is this one. -135, 2.5 shots on goal, because that prop correlates with what we have on PrizePicks. Okay. So the biggest thing would be that he has been over smashing it, 2 out of the last 3 games, which I don't exactly love. At the same time, that's the best NHL bet that we're getting currently. So it is what it is. And then the best bet that we are getting thus far right now is a college basketball bet. And so that bet would be Dick over -140, 13.5 points. He's at -140 to get the over 13.5 points. And we can see he is set at that. And that's literally the best bet that I was able to find thus far this morning. And so I'm not going to have a bet of the day, guys. I apologize. It probably would just be this one. And then also, I guess, the NHL bet. But we are not getting good odds just yet. So that's why I plan on doing an afternoon video, maybe around 2 p.m. Central, maybe 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, once that stuff comes out. And I do think, just to reiterate, I do think this will be a good slate. Once we get those odds, we just need them to come out. So that's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys kind of get a good sense of this slate as it sits right now. Hopefully you guys could find some props that you did like. I just want to guide you guys in kind of the correct spots. And I felt like I was able to do that slightly today, but not as much as I typically would like to. So hopefully we can do that this afternoon. All right, thanks for watching. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.